Previously on my Limbus company journey, we took on Cantos 2 and 3, learning more about Rhodia and Sinclair's past. We also had to make the tough decision between claiming Enclair or Enfaust, and ultimately we settled on Enclair for the raw powerhouse that he is, a decision that so far I have zero regrets about. Now before we move on to Canto 4, there's a few things about the account we need to discuss. There were a lot, and I mean a lot of comments talking about Canto 4, and there was definitely a 50-50 split amongst you. Half of you were genuinely excited to see my reactions to the story and learning more about Limbus, the other half were more interested in watching me struggle. And to that half, I say shame on you. This might disappoint that second half though, as there was one comment that stood out, as they claimed that I would struggle due to being underleveled. So I decided to go do some grinding and take my two main units level 40, that being Enclair and TT Honglu. Moving on, let's begin Canto 4, Hell's Chicken. Except actually this isn't Canto 4, this is just something called an intervello. Essentially it acts as a more laid back experience, just to slow down the pacing and let the player breathe while still learning more about the game and earning some rewards along the way. Honestly, I really liked this idea. I needed it, to be honest, and as we learn as we go on, it's still very much connected to the story. However, this is where I make my first complaint about Limbus Company. Seeing the name Hell's Chicken meant that this entire section of the game was somewhat spoiled for me. I found the mirror dungeon at least 10 times now, and so I've seen this chicken man and the raw little devil chickens countless times, and knew exactly what I was going to face in this part of the story, and it did concern me that perhaps I've seen quite a few of the bosses from the story in the mirror dungeon. It's not a massive deal, but it is a little bit of a shame. Hell's Chicken starts with our company of sinners noticing a crowd amassing outside of a restaurant, and while we're curious as to what's going on, we're also concerned as there's a mass panic that seems to be starting up. During this time we're approached by a man who later introduced himself as Samjo, an employee at the K-Corp Department of Food Resource Development. The ruckus at the restaurant appears to be caused by some K-Corp grunts, except their heads are raw chickens, and despite how disturbing it all is, Samjo throws a rock at them before hiding behind us, so I guess it's now up to our sinners to sort this mess out. After wiping out the group, Samjo offers us a deal. If we can find the leader commandeering the chickens and take care of it, we'll be rewarded with a lifetime of chicken. A quick group discussion, and almost all the sinners are on board, including Faust, which takes the sinners back a bit, until she reveals there's something called a distortion behind the event. Here I thought perhaps she was just a big fan of chicken wings. With an agreement in place, we start searching around for some clues, but thankfully Heathcliff volunteers to have his head munched on by a raw chicken, giving us a free translator and insight as to what's going on. Good on you, Heathcliff, I'm sure it's completely intentional. We learn that the leader of the chicken army is an old restaurant owner, whose business was booming thanks to his chicken recipes, leading to an espionage from a rival company who stole his recipe and threw it into something called a concept incinerator, destroying any trace of the recipe's existence, including anyone's memories of them. The result of this caused the man to become a strange chicken-human hybrid through a process known as distortion. At this point in the story we know very little about the process, but it's believed he can possibly be rescued with a cook-off. Our sinners split into two teams, and each of them tried to deliver the best cooked chicken wings to restore some humanity to the old restaurant owner. Dish after dish we're berated for our foul cooking skills. See what I did there? Thankfully, for whatever reason, Dante can understand the chicken and the chicken man and translates for the squad, meaning Heathcliff might have suffered some emotional trauma for absolutely no reason at all. Each time we fail, the army of raw poultry gets angered and attacks us, but they're not exactly formidable foes. Eventually a dish does satiate the man, and we got to enter his memories through a fairly short dungeon, and at the end we learn that the recipe means a lot to his mother, as she was very particular about what she would eat. But thankfully she's a big fan of pizza, and so the man decides to open up a pizza restaurant instead, and all is back to normal. The whole intervello felt a bit like a fever dream, but in many respects playing through Limbus Company isn't too different from watching a really interactive anime. While I haven't watched a whole lot of anime, I do know that quite often they tend to release a little bit of a more fun, not serious episode, and I think it usually comes towards the end, if not at the very end, of a season. So being in between cantos, this intervello kind of worked really well. In the end, I really enjoyed it. It was short, and like I said, it was just what I needed to wind down after Canto 3, and exactly the sort of thing I needed before stepping foot into Canto 4. But now it's time to have our own little intervello within the middle of our video. It's time that we discuss some more of the account related stuff. We've already talked about taking our two main carriers to level 40 and ensured that they are both up tie 3, but I haven't taken them to up tie 4 yet. During all of this grinding, which was pretty much entirely from the mirror dungeon, I kept feeling like I really needed a team, because no matter what I did, I could not get my runs to under 1 hour. Since I don't have a whole lot of lunacy right now, if I did pull on the current banners, it's not guaranteed that I'll get something good. So what I decided to do is just to buy a little bit of paid lunacy and do a single pull on each banner every day. Then I kind of found that you could just buy a guaranteed 3-star ticket as part of being a new manager. And so I did. Listen, okay, I'm bored and I have a problem. I'm aware of it, leave me alone.
나한테 명령 내린다던 사람이?
다시 돌아왔다. 개소리가. 그 찢어 발견 올 저택놈들을 마주하라.
Is that Heathcliff? Wait, is that? That's not a wild hunt Heath. Isn't that stupidly good? Some grinding later, we took Wild Hunt Heathcliff to level 40 and we had an instant up Type 4 module, so we're looking pretty damn good for Canto 4. Now before we do get into Canto 4, I just want to quickly talk about Wild Hunt Heathcliff to kind of explain to you how I think you're supposed to play him, and that way you can correct me if I am wrong. Wild Hunt Heathcliff kind of has like two forms. By using his defense skill, he'll swap between riding on Dullahan or just on foot. So ideally we want to defend as him pretty early on to get him to transform, because he is definitely stronger when he's on the back of his horse. However, considering defense can destroy whatever skill is on the bottom line of the dashboard, if it is a skill 3, Requiem, I will use that first. When he is in defense mode, if he has 15 SP and skill 3 is not present, I will use defend. And that will cause him to use Lamont, Mourn and Despair. If skill 3 is present, or if he is not at 15 SP, or sometimes if skill 2 is there because skill 2 is an AoE, I will use that. It kind of does just depend on, who I'm fighting, is there one target, and his SP, and there's a few little things to kind of think about with him, but he seems ridiculously good. I think I got very lucky. Canto 4 starts off on the streets of a city that's seen better days. Rubble and broken buildings surround our company, but not to worry because the K-Corp drones are surveying the perimeter, informing citizens to stay clear and wait for the elite squad to take care of the Raging Bull, which looks awfully familiar as once again it's one of the ones we've seen within the Mirror Dungeon. However, this time Dante actually acknowledges it. This is a really clever way to once again tie everything together into a neat little connected story, while giving the players some context for Mirror Dungeon containing Canto bosses and creatures alike. Our sinners watch on as the K-Corp units get wiped out by this bull, and after a long debate of whether it's right for us to step up or not, we opt to do so, absolutely destroying the Infernal Bovine. Though its presence here was quite concerning, as this is the first time we've seen an abnormality outside of dungeons. We continue on until we reach the main K-Corp building, meeting up with branch manager Dong Rang, who insists on showing us around the labs in great detail, despite his secretary actually informing us that it is beyond off limits. But thanks to Dong Rang's generosity, we get to see a lot of their impressive, yet quite disturbing technology. We see a floating conveyor belt of chickens, whose wings are being cut off for meat, but in an instant they're given a regenerative ampoule that grows their wings back, allowing to be farmed for infinite meat, something that actually has mixed reactions from our company. Though all of this seems like an attempt to impress one sinner in particular. Who that is though, we're not quite sure yet, but it's clearly the sinner that this Canto is related to. We're also introduced to many other characters here, such as Shreen, who I refuse to grow any form of attachment to, as she reeked of Yuri bait. That's a new term I'm coining, by the way. When a character just seems like they're gonna die and the game is trying to make you like them, I'm calling it Yuri bait. Shreen is Yuri bait. I am convinced this game is gonna try to get me attached to her before they completely and utterly brutally murder her. Dong Rang informs us that a terrorist organisation has broken into their labs multiple times, setting off explosions, killing researchers in the process, resulting in the abandoning of their old lab. As a deal, a contract is made between our company and K-Corp. If we help escort Dong Rang to the old lab and back, so he can pick up whatever he left behind, he will give us the golden bow we seek. After Faust carefully assesses the contract, she agrees that it is heavily favoured towards Limbus company, and we prepare to get to work until a bomb is detonated. A couple of terrorists identifying themselves as the Technology Liberation Alliance reveal themselves, but it's okay because Dong Rang has a large security force, backed up by robots designed to automatically administer healing ampules that can regenerate the body in an instant. However, the terrorists are master hackers and hijack the robots, causing them to fire reverse ampules that actually disintegrate whoever they're administered to. Our sinners jump into action once more to rescue both ourselves and the civilians. While they may not be quite deserving of the name heroes, they do their fair share of protecting the innocent and defending those who can't defend themselves. Something Don Quixote would be very proud of. While the terrorists manage to escape, very little damage has been done, and so we can get back on track. Shireen accompanies us to the old laboratory, and as I told you, she's Yuribi. There is no reason for her to come with us except for her to die. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. But that's interesting though. Shireen isn't alone, and she's hired a group of fixers to accompany us. One in particular looks very familiar. That's right, I've faced Nico in the mirror dungeon. I'm already well aware of everything that's about to happen. I may have only seen their pixel sprite, but I absolutely recognise them nonetheless. As we venture deeper and deeper, we encounter robots who are designed to torment people with recorded voice lines. While their insults are extremely petty, they do their job and lure in our sinners, only to explode, injuring several of us in the process. But thankfully none of the actual perishable people were injured at all. My suspicious. Eventually, Ran reveals herself, and we learn that she used to be an employee alongside Shireen and Dongrang. Not only that, but apparently she was quite brilliant. After a long back and forth between the two, another explosion occurs, killing Ran, but only Ran. She was only trying to buy time while the others escaped, and she said in her own words she would never come quietly, as that would lead to her being tortured by Dongrang, only to be healed and re-tortured on repeat, something that Dongran actually acknowledges would be the case. This is an interesting dilemma. As we're now 4 cantos deep, I have grown to not trust anybody and not form a bond with anyone, so instinctively I didn't want to trust Dongrang. And considering that he just admitted that yes, he would torture Ran on repeat for the needed information, hearing him being so open and blunt about it made me question whether or not actually I can trust him. I know it sounds like a complete backwards logic, but who's just open about that? Finally, we reach what we're looking for. A photograph. Oh, and some important confidential details, but more importantly, a photograph. It dawned on us everyone had managed to escape, but how could they have known, and why were there traps everywhere? Clearly, we had a traitor in our midst. And would you look at that, Nico steps up to fight us, which honestly I couldn't think of a stupid idea. You've just watched the sinners take down countless of robots, being blown up and restored back to full health in an instant. And you want to take that on? With Nico dead, Dongrang finally lets out the truth. He's been monitoring Shireen's emails to Ran, and he's very aware that she is their informant. During the confrontation, a red line appears vertically through Shireen's body. An assassin had managed to sneak into the neighbouring room, slicing the wall and Shireen in half with a single swipe before fleeing. Though there was actually someone still left behind. A woman by the name of Don Beck introduces herself carrying the golden bow, which she so kindly forcefully inserts into the chest of Yi Sang. It was made aware to us at the end of laboratory tour that Yi Sang was the sinner of Canto 4 and used to work alongside Dong Rang as well as Dong Beck. We don't yet know why the relationship turned so sour between these three, but what we do know is we need to turn back the clock and revive Yi Sang. Our part of the contract was finished now, so returning to the main lab, we expected to be handed the golden bow. Truthfully, if it was me, I would have just held on to it after Yi Sang was disemboweled with it. But I guess the contract states it's still owned by K-Corp until they say otherwise. But we weren't handed it, because it's missing. How on earth does this super high-tech, ridiculously secure laboratory keep getting broken into? We rush off to the top floor to find the Technology Liberation Alliance at work once again, though this time they are covered in talismans and they're using ego to fight back. And this was really weird to hear. Other people are using ego, and as it's rightly pointed out by our sinners, it usually exacts a heavy toll on one's sanity. We pushed on to find a massive eye surrounded by screens. It turns out its tears are what creates the healing modules. Don Beck once again reveals herself. She's been using some sort of cloaking technology to get from place to place undetected. Not just that, but she's using the golden bow to give her the strength to overthrow Dong Rang and now the sinners. She says she's here to destroy the very idea of the healing ampules as the unnatural and unsafe. She wants to go back to a time before technology. Sam Joe, finding the accusations baseless, decides to show that the tears are perfectly safe by diving headfirst into the pool of liquid. Dong Rang subtly suggested multiple times that he does not do that, but Sam Joe doesn't listen, and once he went under the water, we never saw him again. It's revealed that the healing ampules actually had a lot of work done to them to change them from the tear's natural state. Apparently, what the tears actually do is reduce something back to its original form. But what does that actually mean in Sam Joe's case? Does he revert back to a baby? Does he revert back to just raw carbon? Does he become a single-celled organism? I have absolutely no idea. But it can't be good. What's more is we learn that the bug-like people we met in Canto 1 were actually a result of these tears. If you can trick the mind into believing their original form is that of a bug, say by confining them into a locked room and repeating to them that they are bugs, this serum can cause the body to reform into part bug. The revelation of this discovery didn't actually hit me when I was playing through the story. It wasn't until I was writing this script that all the pieces started fitting together and I truly twigged what it actually meant, assuming I'm understanding it right. Dongbek attacks and the fight starts. Hey, she looks like Potential Man. She has a large shield, but the fight's not really that tough. And with our pretty strong team, she goes down fast. Though she's still not done, as parts of glowing yellow trees start appearing all over her, and she claims that she's always wanted to be a bud. This was a weird fight. We're told we can bring 7 units, and so I did. I'll be honest, this is the first fight in Canto 4 that I struggled. On the first attempt, I'm pretty sure I got unlucky with the initial clashes. That caused me to lose. Dongbek got a massive attack off, staggering some users before doing the most insane transition to a stunning golden field of flowers and trees. And while it's absolutely gorgeous, I was missing my best team member. Was he dead? I had no idea. Several turns later he reappeared, but I have no control over him, and he's killing my own team. Rewind the clock, Dante. This time, 5 units. Screw the leveled units, we don't need them, but I'm going to let the fight mostly play out here, so hopefully you can see that I am genuinely learning how to do the combat. He's too slow. We'll transform him like, but he's too slow. You're favoured, and which is surprising. You're neutral, you're favoured.
명령대로 하겠습니다.
주라니야, 죽도록 달릴 시간이다.
Hopeless struggling. They're slow. So why is that the case? You know, like... Can't we just have him clash with 2 of them? And him clash with the last? I'm saying that I don't want that clash. That would be better for me.
운이 따라준다면 좋겠네요.
그 오물을
떼어내주지. 재밌네요.
Here we go again. We have no blooming stacks on us though, so she can't take any of us away. Way. You're actually unopposed right now. Now you're favoured. We're all favoured, except him, he's neutral. I believe.
따라준다면 좋겠네요. 좋아. 아름답진 않네. 재밌네요. 너무 쉽군요.
This is why I believe. Neutral. I guess it only has that 7. That's quite a strong clashing move. What's going on with this one? I don't know. But I think we're okay.
목을 내놓고 있도록. 누가 함께 사라져라.
Big damage.
주라니야. 죽도록 달릴 시간이다.
That looks bad.
목을 내놓고 있도록. 이 속에서 목을 내놓고 있도록. 진짜 밝긴다.
Not bad at all. We're fine.
목을 내놓고 있도록.
그 오물을 떼어내주지. 재밌네요. 아름답진 않네.
And that's it. GG. Oh, that's a lovely transition. Dong Baek was successfully defeated, but still alive, right until Dong Rang pierces her, delivering the final blow. Was it vengeance? Was it cold-blooded murder? Or was it mercy? Her body, now covered in yellow plants, collapses into the arms of Yi Sang, causing the golden blow to resonate, distorting reality as we know it. The world is devoid of colour, and we see Yi Sang, Dong Baek, and Dong Rang in what appears to be a small shack. The sinners pick up copies of a script, and they began reenacting key moments from Yi Sang's past. Yi Sang, Dong Baek, Dong Rang, and even Gubo, the one who stole a golden bow of us in Canto 1, were part of a group of inventors called the League of Nine. They created all sorts of unbelievable inventions that was largely in secret, as one of the rules was to not seek monetary value from them. Yi Sang is seen showing off one of his inventions, the mirror. It allows you to see into other worlds and other versions of yourselves, and this was absolutely mind-blowing to me. While it's revealed later on that the mirror that Limbus company uses is not quite the same mirror, its existence is absolutely thanks to Yi Sang's invention. It is actually mentioned that the mirror was originally designed by another member of the Nine, but we've yet to meet this member. The play continues until eventually we're seeing the Nine destroying their inventions in a concept incinerator. Once again, a traitor has sold them out, and to stop the likes of K-Corp from getting hold of such powerful creations, all memories must be deleted. Dong Baek questions the Nine, asking who it was who sold them out, only for Dong Rang to reveal that it was him. Something Yi Sang points out is wrong. He never revealed that it was him. His reasoning was the healing ampules. They could save so many lives if they weren't so secretive with it. We're shown the eye opening, and all the screens surrounding it begin playing scenes of our sinners' stories from previous cantos, all in an act to get the eye to cry. Dong Rang's guilt finally catches up to him, and it begins to distort.
My broken wings, I know you are still with me. All I need is a nudge to get me started. My broken wings to somewhere
자유롭게. 그날의 봄을 기억한.
With Dongrang dead, our contract dies alongside him. Though due to an agreement with the head of K-Corp, we can keep the golden bow if we allow them to wipe our memories of the singularity and his tears. Virgilus steps in, but to my surprise, only to agree with Alfonso and have our sinners' memories wiped. Though it would seem that Dante is actually impervious, so we must carry these memories alone. Though part of me believes that Virgilus remembers too. While he hasn't let on that's the case, he just seems to be a different breed to the sinners, as if his memories can't be wiped that easily. Just when I think it's all over and I can finally sleep, Damien once again greets us, but he's not here for Sinclair. He's here for us. While I'm not fully sure I understand everything he's saying, he does say that the mirror should never have existed, and to use it is to steal from the ID we use within the mirror. Or at least I think that's what he's suggesting. To the people who said that each Canto is better than the last, fair enough. I can see that's the case so far. Though I have to say that Canto 4 felt very different. The previous Cantos feel almost like a dream. Canto 3 is set around Christmas, yet we hear Sharon singing Silent Night after we defeat Chroma, despite being told it's nowhere near Christmas. And we've seen the Golden Bow distort reality, but Canto 4 felt very different. The labs were real, the employees were real and current. Reality only bent to Yisang's subconscious right at the end. The whole thing felt a lot more present, which really threw me off. But now I can't wait for Canto 4. Plus, each time I finish a Canto, my playlist gets a little bit longer, because the music is absolutely top notch. I will also add a small bit of appreciation to Project Moon. I noticed during many scenes that there was actually a bit more movement, showing us a little bit more of the bus, as well as the labs. It's a small extra bit of detail, but it made this Canto feel like it had a much bigger budget. And the funny thing is, I didn't even think it needed it until I saw it. But that small little change really does a big impact. And also a huge appreciation to the voice actors, because somehow during the acting at the end of Canto 4, the voice actors somehow made it sound like they were actually reading a script while staying in their respective characters. And lastly, a big thank you for all the support. 1,000 subscribers in about 5 or 6 days is absolutely unheard of. So thank you all very much, but that's where I'm going to end this video. Thank you all for listening, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye bye.